The water rates, Mr. Genito?
Yes, Mayor, we have, the tentative budget has a recommended set of water rate increases. The water rate itself, 12.2%, and the sewer rate's 14.4%. That is what's recommended in the tentative budget. I know that the board has discussed modifications or changes to those budgets, which would affect the rates.
So hang on, Mike, I know I'm having trouble hearing you, I'm sure everyone else is. Let's just wait for the, okay.
Sure. Once again, the tentative 2015-16 budgets for the water fund and the sewer fund are recommending rates of 12.2% for the water, 14.4% for the sewer. We know that the board has been working diligently on the tentative budget and amendments there too. And although nothing has been adopted as of yet, there are several suggestions on the table. But for the moment, those are the rates that we have before us that the board could vote on, or if they choose to wait until another day, Wednesday, or whatever, sometime prior to the adoption of the budget, they can vote a different set of rates.
Okay, Mr. Genito, I'd just like, in order for the board to fully understand, I know that you have expressed to me your recommendation of why, even though some cuts may have been identified, why you feel as though that these rates should remain. I'd like you to be able to explain that to the public so they have a better understanding.
Yes, certainly, Mayor. As you probably are all well aware, the water fund and the sewer fund are in severe deficits. And those two funds, in order to work our way out of those deficits and into appropriate cash flow positions, these rates would help along that way, including the deficit financing that we're looking forward to getting sometime in the forthcoming year. We have had discussions at state audit. State Controller's Office has been in here doing a budget review, and although they're not complete with that review, in discussions with him on a given day, he had noted his concern for the rates that had to be increased in order to meet these requirements and eliminate the deficits over a period of time, over a period of 3 to 5 years. Some of the things that are in that budget are the result of just the use of water and how it's perhaps gone down over a bit, or that the rates themselves didn't bring in, that were previously adopted, didn't bring in the revenues that were anticipated. At any rate, the funds have been doing revenue anticipation note, that is cash flow borrowing, since 2010. And once again, the rates were established in this tentative budget to start working our way out of that situation.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm sorry, I have a question for Mrs. Genito.
Sure.
Regarding the water rates and the proposed rate increase of 12.2%, the reductions that the board submitted to you, decreased the increase by 7.2% down to 5%. Is that correct?
Yes.
I know I didn't receive the follow-up with if there was any other changes.
As you probably are well aware, Trustee Markunas, yourself, and Trustee Morris had sent over a series of suggested changes, some of them which had already been discussed and presented before, but as well some additional changes as of, I think, as late as 7 p.m. last night. And I recalculated the budgets for the water, the sewer, the general fund, and the solid waste curbside district. And I believe you all received an email somewhere around 11:35 p.m. last night indicating all of the changes and responses to the changes that could be made to some items that were suggested as a change, but due to contractual obligations were not able to be put in. And the net result of those changes in the set of documents that I sent to the board.
Okay, and that's complete. That's the final revision.
That is the last revision that I've heard, other than this today, I believe 3 p.m. or so. You had emailed the change that really, probably the net result is 0 because it's simply moving money from one end of the water fund to the other. But
okay, I just wanted to make sure that you received that change.
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
No, he's they're talking at the 14% rate again. Mr. Janito, we sent you we sent you some changes, and... I'm sorry. Okay. We sent you a package of changes, and it appeared that the changes were good, but you had a difference of opinion as to the bonding and some of the other issues. But we looked at that budget, at our proposals, and it's basically just a different philosophy of where we want to go. And I think speaking for myself, we're looking to cap this water rate at 5% raise.
Right, the difference of philosophy, I think one of the main ones that you had just referred to was in the sewer fund. And in the sewer fund, there was a payment of a $162,500 bond anticipation note, a final payment on that note of that amount to be made in 2015-16. And the suggestion was from the board was to take that amount along with a $1.1 million bond anticipation note that we have outstanding in the sewer fund, and to bond the two of those notes and thereby stretch out the payment of those notes over some period of time, probably 20 years or more. My concern with that, and there's where the difference is that when we're talking about the sewer fund in particular, we know that according to our engineer, our village engineer, that the sewer fund will need probably another $1.5 to $2 million over the next couple of years for additional improvements mandated by the Department of Environmental Conservation consent order. And in looking at long-term financing, it's probably good for a couple of reasons to renew the note for $1.1 million along with whatever other bonding that they're going to borrow for, and turn it into a long-term bond after perhaps a 3 or 4 year period. The other thing that does is gives us time to look at opportunities that may avail themselves to us from New York State financing through its Environmental Facilities Corp. The Environmental Facilities Corp, if they accept our projects and our financing, would give us the ability to borrow short-term at 0% interest rates and long-term at 1/2 the rate of a AAA rated community. Both of those are very advantageous over the long term. So once again, that philosophy of managing a budget for a single year versus managing these projects and financing over a long period is where the difference is.
Well, again, I think you're talking about a $1.2 million bond for the wastewater treatment plant. And a number of months ago, we asked the director, keep in mind that we've already spent in excess of $4 million on the plant, of what the total cost was going to be to bring this plant up to specifications, and where we'd have a period where we wouldn't be putting money into it. We're being asked to take a $1.2 million bond for repairs, well, to comply with the DEC consent order. But in fact, this could only be the tip of the iceberg. And without having some kind of a solvent plan in front of us, do we intend to spend $2 million, $5 million, $10 million, $20 million? To rehab a sewer plant can cost upwards of $20 million. What are our plans for this plant? As of yet, we haven't gotten a comprehensive plan from the Director of Public Works. So I'm not inclined to agree with that. And as I said, I think you can do this budget as we submitted it to you for the changes at 5%.
And as I've advised the board in the past, I, of course, was hired by the village to provide my knowledge and expertise to the board, my recommendations, my best recommendations based on my experience and knowledge. But it is, of course, the board's prerogative and duty to make the proper decisions by themselves for the village of Suffern. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
I also believe that the consent orders from the DEC have been pushed back a year or two. Is that correct, Mayor?
Yeah, well, go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, we've been negotiating, does this work? We've been
Here, no,
negotiating-
you're sharing.
For quite some time, we were negotiating with DEC because of the financial issues about pushing back the deadlines for approximately 1 year. They've agreed to it, but we haven't gotten a final document as yet. I don't have any question that it'll go through, though. So it's
Okay.
pushed back approximately a year.
Any approximate cost on that consent order to the village? To the
You'll have
repair?
You have to talk to Mike and Charles about cost.
It was 1.2 million.
Yeah, that's correct.
So in order, adversely, we would be pushing off out of this water budget and reducing the increase to the village residents by pushing off this consent order at a cost of $1.2 million and then banding or bonding our long-term deficit, reducing it and spreading it out across a length of time so the impact would not be felt on the residents' rates as greatly as they were proposed. Is that correct to say?
We're working on it. You know, there's not been a definitive answer on it, but we're really trying very hard to work on that. But again, the treasurer has cautioned us to stop pushing off and bonding. You know, this has been a vicious cycle that's been going on in this village for a very long time. And he is strongly recommending that we do not continue the borrowing. You know, one of the proposals that you made was to bond, a long-term bond for $168,000, which reflects the last 4 payments of money that we borrowed. To put that over another 10-year period or 5-year period, the interest that we'll incur on that is absolutely absurd. To be able to pay that off next year would be the financially sound thing to do. And that's what the treasurer has been explaining to us all along, is that you can't keep pushing off your debt. When you keep pushing off your debt and you keep borrowing into a bigger hole.
Correct, and we also need to look at the taxpayer and what the taxpayer can bear. So that is our concern, and the taxpayer's concern is that somehow we need to come to a balance and not increase the water rate as drastically. Granted that we do recognize that we do need to increase it some, but not at the drastic rate.
And
Thank you.
I believe the bond we proposed was to take in the $162,000. I'm sorry. The proposal we sent you did propose us taking a long-term bond, but it paid off several short-term bonds. It took $162,000 and paid that off. There were several issues that this bond paid off, which helped the financial crush that we're in.
Actually, yes, it pays off, as I mentioned, 2 bond anticipation notes. One is the final payment on an original bond anticipation note that was borrowed for, I believe it was about $650,000, but it's $162,500. And the other bond anticipation note outstanding was just borrowed this year for $1.1 million. That was part of the work that was needed to improve the sewer plant. The additional bonding that the Director of Public Works has advised us under sewer abatement projects 1 and 2, or phases 1 and 2, are totaling somewhere between $1.5 to $2 million. His original estimate was about $1 million apiece. As you know, the bids came in for the first phase somewhat under that $1 million, but then again, only one of the contractors is willing to continue their bid price beyond a period of time that we've asked them to start it on. Just to give a quick background on it to explain that. The village has been, as Mr. Rice has stated, has been in negotiations with the DEC in order not to have incurred upon us an immediate requirement to make repairs that would cost over $1 million to the sewer plant, and asked that that be delayed somewhat if we did other work that would meet their needs until that period of time. So yes, those sewer abatement projects 1 and 2 were pushed off into another fiscal year, not next year, well, into next year, so to speak. But when those 2 projects have to be done, they are going to be between $1.5 to $2 million, and the only way to pay for them is to borrow money. And that's what I was speaking of, is that the $1.1 million plus another 1.5 to 2 million could be combined into a single bond issue and may be eligible for EFC beneficial financing.
Well, we also, you were proposing, I think it was a $5 million long-term bond on a deficit financing?
That's for the entire, for the three funds of the village, yes. The water fund, sewer fund, and general fund, to help get them out of the deficits that they're in.
Well, will it help get them out, or will it get them out?
Oh, it's going to help get them out along with the rate increases. It's part of the plan. I mean, you have to pay that bond, that's not free money. I mean, the money comes in, it has to be paid off.
I understand that.
And we have a number of issues that have built up over the years. I mean, some of them are the borrowed money that we're paying off our bills with borrowed money, our current bills with borrowed money. They're called revenue anticipation notes. We're borrowing against the money that we expect to get in this year, and that's been happening since 2010. So to break that cycle to begin with, and then to get into responsible budgets and to react to budgetary changes as they occur during the year, to address shortfalls in revenues that weren't anticipated or increases in expenditures. But they have to be addressed as we go along during the year, as opposed to waiting till the end of the year and finding that we're in trouble.
Any other questions from the board? Nothing? Okay. All right, Terry?
All right, I don't know what you want to talk about first, the water or the sewer, but depending on what you want to do, you have a local law in front of you that has rates.
Oh, you got to go back to mine.
We have mic problems tonight. You have a draft local law in front of you. It's premised upon a particular budget, so if you are in agreement with that particular budget, then you can act on that. If you need to change something, a different budgetary idea, then you're going to have Mike figure the rates out in the local law that you want to adopt.
Right, this local law in front of us is not the local law that pertains to the proposed changes that we asked for. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we need a revised local law reflecting the revisions that we requested.
Right, and you've stated that to be a 5% increase, I mean, I'm sorry, a rate of 5% is what you're proposing, is that correct? 5% increase?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, in the proposal, it would actually be the monetary amount, is that correct? Is that what we vote on into the local law, not the specific percentage increase? We would...
The local law itself has rates, it sets the rates.
Sets the rates, correct.
So if you have a particular budget, the finance department is going to have to compute the rates so that you can put them into the local law. Now,
Correct.
they know what the budget is, they can give me the numbers, and we can have that for you for the meeting Wednesday night.
Okay, so we do not have that prepared today, tonight?
No.
Okay.
Can I ask why we don't have it prepared?
Isn't it here?
I mean, we were under the assumption that if we sent in the proposals, that we would have tentative budgets, and...
I believe what Mr. Rice is referring to is that the local law has not been prepared.
Well, it was prepared wrong.
The adjustments that I sent you late last night show rates for the water at 3.18 for the up to 71 units, up to 70 units, and above that, 3.64, and a rate for outside village customers, 4.64. And the only other change that I would say that's not listed here that I would continue to recommend is, I believe it's the outside minimum from 55 to 60. I believe that's in the local law for water.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, and then on the sewer end of things, the rates as adjusted per your suggestions was 3.39, I'm sorry, is 6.9 for the sewer. That's a 4.5% increase altogether.
Correct.
So it's $6.90.
Let me make sure. So those numbers reflect the 5%?
5% for water and 4.5 for sewer.
All right, so then you're good to go. You amend the proposed local law to reflect that, and then you can act on it. If those numbers, Mike, you're...
All right, and Mr. Rice, I apologize for not forwarding to you an amended local law simply because I wasn't sure that the board had finished all of their recommended changes.
All right, so just so everybody's clear, if these numbers reflect exactly what the board wants, you can amend the proposed local law before you, and you can adopt it.
Tonight.
Yes.
Yes. Is there a motion? Water fund, yeah.
All right, so the first thing you want to do is amend the proposed local law.
Thank you.
Louder wouldn't help, we need a mic.
So, before we make the motion and all, I believe the majority of the people are out here to understand the rate increase in the water and the sewer. So what has taken place in regards to the sewer, the proposed tentative rate, we were at 14.4%. Upon a closer look and some evaluation, we were able to bring it down to 4.5% for the sewer. Now, going back to the water fund, the proposed tentative rate was 12.2%. We were able to bring it down to 5%. So that's what we were diligently working on and trying to not put this on the back of the people in 1 year. That was our main point, and I hope you understand that we were in severe deficit and that we do need to increase the water rates, but not at that high percentage. Thank you.
Okay, all right, so let's just, procedurally, let's just make sure everybody is on the same page and we do it properly. And so if this is my understanding of what the board wants to do, you'd amend the proposed local law pending before you, and let me just read the rates on the water local law that I have so that we make sure everybody is in agreement. For consumers within the village for water, it stays the same. The first 10 units is $35 minimum. 10 units and less than 71 is 3.60 per unit. Portion over 70 units, well, that's the one I have here, so tell us which one we have. 3.4 then? Is that what we're dealing with? Okay. So again, let's make sure we're all on the same page. It's same $35 minimum. Portion over 10 units and less than 71 units is 3.40 per unit. Is that what you want?
Yes.
And a portion over 70 units, 3.
No, I'm sorry.
That's what was prepared for tonight, but that doesn't reflect the change.
That's not the amended rate.
No, I think what he's saying is that he's saying what you're amending.
Okay.
No, I'm sure,
No,
no,
he's
this is the
trying to
latest
set the-
version we have. If you have different rates that reflect that, then we need to see them.
It's $3.18, $3.64, and
All right,
$4.64.
so it's good that we have it now. All right. I'm glad we went through this, otherwise we would be confused. 10 units and less than 71, you're proposing 318, is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe Mike should confirm it.
Yeah,
Sorry, Mr.
Yes, I'll
Magrino.
confirm 318 for 0 to 70 units.
all right, and portion over 70
Or 10 to
units,
70.
364, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And then the first, for out-of-village users, the first 10 units, you're increasing to $60, and portion over 10 units is 4.64. So that's
That is
exactly
correct.
the rates you're proposing.
Yes,
Okay.
the board is
All
proposing,
right,
yes.
so you need to make a motion to amend the proposed local law to reflect those rates, and then you can act on the local law on the second motion.
I make a motion to amend the rates to...
Reflect what you just
To
said.
reflect these changes.
And I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Morris,
Yes.
Mr. Hagen,
Yes.
Mr. Markunas,
Yes.
Mr. Byrne.
Yes.
And I vote no. I vote no because I have not received any explanation as to how the water and sewer fund are going to operate under this budget, nor has Mr. Janito. Mr. Janito came on board as an expert with a very, very solid financial background, and he has made recommendations to this village that he's trying to bring forward, and unfortunately, they have gone unheard. I also am very concerned with the statements of the trustees that they have gone to outside accountants for advice, as we have asked the treasurer many times to please let us know who these are so that he can speak with them and give an accurate picture of the entire village. Those names have not been disclosed to him, therefore he has not had the benefit of speaking with these individuals to which the members of the board have taken advice from. So, not that I don't want to see a decrease in this, but I certainly do not want to do something that's fiscally irresponsible for this village, therefore I vote no. The motion is carried.
Now on the local law itself.
Okay.
Now you have to vote on the local law itself. That we just amended the proposals.
So I make a motion that we vote on, that we adopt the local law with the new rates that were read by Mr. Janito.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Hagen?
Yes.
Mr. Markunas?
Yes.
Mr. Byrne? Yes. And I vote no, for the same reasons. Okay. Sewer? Mhm.
All right. So again, let's make sure we were talking about the same rates. Mike, they're proposing, with the budget, they're proposing the rate for the sewer would be $7.55 per 100 cubic feet of water. Is that accurate?
That was the original, it's now $6.90.
All right, so let's,
690.
all right, the other items in here, the minimum sewer rent, this is showing $25. Is that going to stay the same?
Yes.
Okay. And that should do it. Outside user, I'm sorry, the minimum for an outside user is $25.
Right.
Yes?
Whatever was in the original proposal we had, we haven't,
That's in paragraph C.
Yeah, and C. The two numbers in paragraph C are outside users are charged $7.55 per 100 cubic, which is the same, and then a $25 minimum.
okay.
So if that's the case, again, you need a motion to amend the proposed local law before you, and then a second vote on the local law itself.
Make a proposal to amend the local law to the figures we just talked about. Make a motion to amend the local law to the numbers we just discussed.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Hagen?
Yes.
Mr. Markunas?
Yes.
Mr. Byrne? And I vote no, and the reasons I am voting no are because, again, outside counsel, outside accountants worked with the trustees on this. There are strict laws that unless you are a municipal advisor, you are not to give advice. It is breaking laws of the SEC. I do not know if those laws have been broken as of this time because the trustees will not disclose who the accountants are that they have taken this advice from. Therefore, in good conscience, I cannot certainly vote on a change for a budget that may have broken some laws. So again, none of the proposals that they have made have been shared with myself or the treasurer as to how they're going to achieve this new rate, and that is why I'm voting no. Okay. Next motion.
Make a motion to adopt the local law as we proposed.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Hagen?
Yes.
Mr. Markunas?
Yes.
Mr. Byrne?
Yes.
And I vote no, for the same reasons. Okay, do I have a motion to close the meeting?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to close.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.